South Africa has officially classified violence against women and girls as a national disaster, following an intense wave of activism, online campaigns, and widespread public protests. The decision comes after years of civil society pressure and a growing recognition that gender-based violence, GBV, in the country poses an urgent threat to women's safety and well-being. Last Friday, thousands of South Africans participated in nationwide demonstrations where women were urged to withdraw from the economy for one day and lie down for 15 minutes at noon to symbolically honor the 15 women who are killed daily in the country. Initially, the state resisted calls to categorize GBV as a national disaster, citing legal restrictions and procedural requirements. However, after reviewing updated submissions from government bodies and civil organizations, officials acknowledged the persistent and immediate risks to life posed by ongoing acts of violence, prompting the government to take decisive action. South Africa has one of the highest rates of gender-based violence in the world. According to UN Women, the country's rate of femicide, women being murdered because of their gender, is nearly 5 times the global average. The problem is compounded by entrenched social norms, systemic inequalities, and limited law enforcement resources, creating an environment where women are disproportionately vulnerable. Activists argue that GBV in South Africa is not just a social issue but a structural problem rooted in historical, cultural, and economic inequalities that have left women exposed to violence from intimate partners, strangers, and organized criminal groups. Civil society groups, led by organizations like Women for Change, have used both online campaigns and public demonstrations to draw attention to this crisis, demanding that the government prioritize women's safety and hold perpetrators accountable. Friday's nationwide protest, dubbed the G20 Women Shutdown, was carried out in 15 locations across South Africa, including major urban centers such as Cape Town, Johannesburg, and Durban. Participants dressed in black to signify mourning and resistance and took part in lie-down demonstrations to highlight the human cost of femicide. The campaign quickly gained traction beyond South Africa, inspiring solidarity events in neighboring countries like Eswatini, Kenya, and Namibia. Social media played a central role in mobilizing participants, with thousands of South Africans, including prominent celebrities, changing their profile pictures to purple, the color associated with GBV awareness. The online petition accompanying the protest amassed over 1 million signatures, underscoring the scale of public concern and the widespread demand for government action. The South African government had first declared gender-based violence a national crisis in 2019, during President Cyril Ramaphosa's address at the G20 Social Summit. However, critics have long argued that the measures implemented since then have been insufficient. Limited enforcement, bureaucratic delays, and lack of transparency have hindered the effectiveness of legal and social interventions. By upgrading the classification to a national disaster, the government can now direct departments to utilize allocated budgets more flexibly to address the crisis, implement emergency measures, and prioritize initiatives designed to protect women from violence. While the designation does not yet grant powers equivalent to a full national state of disaster, it is an important step in elevating the issue within the national policy agenda and signaling that authorities recognize the urgency of the problem. For many activists, the government's decision represents a significant victory after years of relentless advocacy. Cameron Kasambala, spokesperson for Women for Change, highlighted the challenges activists have faced, citing a lack of implementation and transparency in the government's previous responses. Kasambala also emphasized that gender-based violence has become deeply embedded in social and cultural norms, requiring more than just policy changes. It necessitates a cultural shift. She argued that the national disaster classification could set a precedent and establish the tone for how South Africa addresses GBV moving forward, and that tangible results on the ground would be a critical measure of success. High-profile support has amplified the visibility of the movement. Grammy-winning singer Tyla and numerous other celebrities publicly endorsed the protests, encouraging South Africans to participate and raise awareness online. Beyond celebrities, ordinary citizens have also engaged in the campaign, highlighting the personal impact of GBV. A professor from Free State Province who traveled to Johannesburg for the silent protest described how fear of violence had previously influenced simple daily activities like jogging. Yet, not all women were able to participate freely. Some reported facing pressure or discouragement from employers, highlighting the broader societal and economic challenges that complicate activism against GBV. These barriers reflect persistent structural inequalities that women face, reinforcing the need for systemic reforms in addition to symbolic gestures. In addition to protests, some South African women are taking proactive measures to protect themselves. Lynette Oxley founded Girls on Fire, a program that trains women in legal firearm ownership for self-defense, provided they have valid licenses. Many participants have survived violent attacks, including rape, robbery, and physical assault, and now use the training both for personal protection and empowerment. One participant, Prudence, joined the program after being raped in 2022, facing systemic obstacles while seeking justice, including the loss of her DNA evidence. For Oxley, firearm training is about more than physical protection. It is a tool to reclaim agency and resist societal pressures that encourage silence and submission in the face of violence. She emphasizes that guns are a last resort, and the true goal is to shift women's perceptions of their own strength and rights. The protests and grassroots movements are part of a broader effort to change South Africa's cultural and social landscape regarding GBV. Organizers stress the importance of creating awareness, fostering dialogue, and pressing for systemic changes that go beyond legislation. Even if you do not win the fight, at least you are fighting back, Oxley said, capturing the spirit of empowerment that underpins these initiatives. While protests and awareness campaigns cannot immediately eradicate gender-based violence, they play a crucial role in challenging norms, mobilizing public support, and compelling authorities to act. The combination of activism, media attention, and government recognition increases the likelihood that interventions will be implemented more effectively. South Africa's designation of gender-based violence and femicide as a national disaster marks a significant milestone in addressing one of the country's most pressing social crises. By elevating GBV to the level of a national disaster, the government can implement measures more swiftly and allocate resources where they are most needed, while activists continue to monitor and hold authorities accountable. The success of these efforts will depend on consistent policy enforcement, cultural change, and tangible action on the ground, including law enforcement, judicial responsiveness, and community support programs. As the country confronts this deeply rooted problem, the involvement of civil society, the international community, and South African citizens themselves will be critical in ensuring that these measures translate into meaningful reductions in violence and lasting protections for women across the nation.